Out of time loving all kinds of people, but all kinds of people won't care for your heart. I love you like you love the ocean, and that's where you're going, and it tears me apart. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Perfectly Good Podcast, the only podcast on the internet that is counting every John Hyatt song from A to Z. We rank it, we discuss it, we have fun. Joining me in the ocean, walking around in our bare feet, is my sister in all things John Hyatt, Sylvan Groth. Hi, Sylvan.
Hi, Jesse. So good to be with you and have a little diversion, but one well worth taking with this song.
This was a really nice surprise that it came up alphabetically. We're talking about all kinds of people. Why don't you tell our wonderful listeners why this is a little different?
This is a little different because this is actually a song written by Lilly Hyatt, John's daughter, his older daughter, who has a wonderful career of her own. I believe she's on her fourth album at the time of this recording. And this was on her third album, and the first track, All Kinds of People. Lilly recorded it in 2017 for her album Trinity Lane. And then a couple of years later, they were promoting Record Day here in the US, where a whole bunch of artists were releasing singles on vinyl that would only be available in independent record stores as a promotion to get people to actually show up in the pavement. So Lilly covered a song of John's, and John covered this song of Lily's. So it is actually a John Hyatt song that was available. It came out April 13th, 2019. And I actually do not have a record player, so I almost kind of skipped over collecting it for myself. But some friends of mine asked me to track it down. And so I was there on record store day with all the other diehard music collectors and, wondering, oh no, am I going to have to get into a fight to pick up my copy of the John Hyatt vinyl? Because it wouldn't be the first time I got into a fight to get my piece of Hyatt music, but thankfully I got my hands on it, and it's a beautiful song, both Lily's version and John's version. So, Jesse, do you want to talk about what your thoughts were first listen?
I absolutely do. But before I do that, I wanted to, he and Lily, have they performed together? That
They
you know
toured
of?
together.
They did tour together? I missed that
Yes.
tour. That would have been
I'm
cool.
so sorry.
Yes.
Yes, it was cool. She opened for him, and I believe he was touring with the Full Goners at that point, because
Okay.
I was kind of looking at all of these men and she was on the same bus with them. I'm like, wow, it's one thing to go on a long RV drive with your dad. It's another thing to go on a long RV drive with your dad and all his weird friends.
Yes, absolutely. That's
But
great.
yeah. So she opened for him, and what I remember most about it is like this buzz in the air of the audience who had come to see John and not quite sure what to expect from Lily, and they were just enraptured by her. I think there was a little bit of a, parental feeling like, oh, here's the kid, and are we going to like her? And oh, she did so good, like at the talent show or whatever. But more than that, I mean, she's just so charming and such a great performer. So yeah.
I really enjoy following her on Twitter. And one of the other podcasts I do with a bunch of my buddies is we do a How Many podcast. And the theme is we pick a topic and then we guess how many. So, for example, in the subject, like how many, like I've got 40 Elton John songs. How many do you think are actually good, significant? And so we did a segment of how many children of musicians would you call significant?
Interesting.
And I said, and I'm the one who picked that topic. And I said, and the only reason I did is so, and we joke about whoever came up with the topic has host prerogative that they can automatically put someone, even if no one else agrees. And I said, the only reason I did this is to put Lily Hyatt and John Hyatt in there. So,
I don't think you'd be alone,
yeah,
I've actually been walking around in my John Hyatt t-shirt and people have stopped me and said, "Are you familiar with Lily's music too?" Which,
yeah,
I mean, first of all, I kind of roll my eyes. It's like you don't know who you're talking to,
yes,
but
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
yes, I know Lily, and yes, she's great.
Yeah, so that's great. All right, so going to all kinds of people. As just if this is your first episode, I'll kind of give you a little background, pull back the curtain. What I normally do is I take the songs that we're going to discuss and I put them in a playlist and I listen to them over and over again. And I loved this song. I loved his voice with it. I I loved it. This feels like a John Hyatt song to me.
Yeah.
What do you think?
What I was really struck by, I did the same thing, and I specifically listened to them back to back together, is I remembered listening to Lily's version for the first time and thinking, oh, I remember what it was like to be her age and have a bad breakup and, wondering if your heart is ever going to heal or whatever. And it felt like, you know, almost a little Taylor Swifty to me, of that, young girl talking about a guy as if they're everything kind of thing, which was stupid of me because that's also a very surface level reading of the song Lily's version. There's a lot more going on beyond that. But then listening to John's version in that old wizened voice talking about it, and it's like, oh, this is a song that isn't just for a young woman to sing, it's for anyone to sing, which is really the best we can say about any writer, is that they tap into something universal. And I think the universal here is that feeling that you gave it your best, you wanted to make a connection, and for whatever reason, the connection you were reaching out for didn't reach you back halfway, and how much that hurts. I mean, that is why love poetry and songs have been written forever, I think. But that was my interpretation after listening to both back to back for a while.
I love that interaction. I did not think to listen to her version. I've heard it in the past, but I didn't think, and I'm now kind of mad at myself. I want to pause, take a 5-minute break and listen. But I thought of this as you're telling that story, I think of the American recordings with Johnny Cash, how he took all these songs and he interpreted them himself. For example, like Hurt, and other songs like Bridge Over Troubled Waters. And the American recordings, he did just all these songs that he wanted to sing, and that wonderful voice showing every mile he has in every bump in the road he had hit adds this gravitas to the song. And listening to you, I think that's it. I think the spend a lot of time loving all kinds of people, but all kinds of people won't care for your heart. That is a heartbreaking lyric that I I'm sending love out there, and I'm wanting to believe the best in people and the best in not in a relationship or just in a community, but these same people won't care for your heart. They will not return that in kind to you. And in general terms, that is something that you learn over the years. Um, I I am I and I apologize. This is now the second time I'm talking about another podcast, but there is a point to it. I do a Game of Thrones podcast, and my host say, "You are just so sweet, Jesse, because you still think that in this world there's going to be true love and everyone's good is going to triumph over evil. You are so just optimistic." And um I I the realistic is you shouldn't be optimistic, but if that's your spirit, if that's what you're doing, you are hurting yourself if you're not. And so I love this. I love you like you love the ocean, and that's where you're going, and it tears me apart. Um, Tell me a little bit more of your thoughts on this.
Well, the other side of that is that as I was listening to John, it almost kind of reminded me, and maybe I'm just placing this over for my own selfish reasons, is a parent wishing a child well as they send them off into the world, and that loss of saying goodbye. And the fact that for most parent-child relationships, the parent is bending over backwards, busting themselves, working hard to give their child a better life. And then they just kind of roll on down the road, or, sail off into the ocean without a second glance. And it hurts, but they gladly do it anyway. So that was what kind of like, there's some real power in these lyrics, and the music of it, that tempo that seems to just kind of whine and keep going, like it's very mid-tempo. It's not a slow dirge, it's not a fast paced little peppy thing. It's just this is life. We're going to put one foot in front of the other and keep on slogging through. And even when you're ripped apart, you just kind of go to the grocery store, you take a detour so you don't have to drive by that place that holds so many memories that you don't want to think about. Yeah.
The idea of my son is now 32,
Mhm.
but after he graduated college, so he moved back home for a little bit and then got his own place. But he talked about so he's 23, 24, and he'll say, "I was young and dumb. I just didn't understand." Like some things serious and other things as simple, like, "I thought you didn't remember when you're a teenager, you wouldn't eat leftovers." Yeah, I was young and dumb. At
Yeah.
this point, Dad, any leftovers you have, I'm taking to the house so that I can save money, not going to Sonic. And I think that is true, that as a parent, you can bend over backwards, and they will hurt you without meaning to. I remember, and this is, I guess I'm on your couch, but my father called me Hot Shot when I was a little kid. That was the nickname. And when I was 16 or 17, I said, "Quit calling me Hot Shot. I hate that nickname." And he never called it to me again. And when I was like 23 or 24, I'm like, "Dad, I don't mind Hot Shot. I was just a stupid kid." "Oh, I understand, JW." And I was like, "God, what an idiot. Why did you do that to your father for, because I was young and dumb?" And so, yeah, busted my knees, but what else could I do? You have to take care of them. So once again, I would not have thought this about a parent-child relationship, but when you look at it that way, this fits perfectly.
Oh, yeah. And even this house has spirits. I always knew it. The sale sign doesn't fool me at all. Remember listening to Lonnie Johnson? I told you you'd love it. Our name's on the wall. Like I kept on coming back to that about, um, the lovers breaking up, or those, the names on the wall, I thought about when you have the child's height and
Yes.
age, going up. So it could be all sorts of things.
Yeah. And I also love the um remember listening to Lonnie Johnson. I told you you'd love it. Um there is there are songs that you love as a couple, and then when you break up, it can go
You
two
can't
ways.
quite listen to it the same way.
You
Yeah.
can't listen to it the right way. Like that that song was spoiled
Hmm.
by the relationship I had. It did. Yeah, that's a really, I like that point a lot. Um
Yeah. That's
yeah.
actually kind of funny because one of my good friends in college, I was talking about John Hyatt constantly, shocker. And
Yes.
he said, I just had this relationship that is very much tied with Bring the Family, and I can't listen to John Hyatt because of that. And I was like, no, your relationship is worth that.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
uh, that's it. Well, I've shared the story that for the longest time, because Rick Lisco, who was our friend that brought us to John, when he passed away, for the longest time, Linda couldn't listen to John without crying, without feeling that sadness. And now then it's reached the point where she feels Rick's love when she listens to it. And it brings her happiness, but she had to go through that spell.
yes.
Very nice. The other thing I wanted to comment on, I do agree with you. It is a really it's a comfortable tempo. It's a comfortable rhyme, and very just he's matter of fact, spent a lot of time loving all kinds of people, but all kinds of people won't care for your heart. Very matter of fact sharing that this is the cliche of it is what it is, and this is what I just have to do. And I love you like you love the ocean, and that's where you're going. The ocean could be any symbol of moving on, doing, and it tears me apart. There's nothing I can do. It just losing you tears me apart, and I just got to keep moving on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, I have to. It is a fairly short song. It is. I think. Do you think? Let's do a little pop psychology. Do you think when he was looking at the different songs of hers to cover, do you think he's like, this is something this fits kind of what I'm thinking? Do you think that's why he picked this one?
It's a great question. I don't know. I also think it's telling that it is specific, that the town that Lilly grew up in and John lived in before they moved back to Nashville. Franklin is in that first line. So it
Yes.
sets it very specifically of this is us we're talking about. Um, so I don't know if, that made him feel very connected to the song because that this is our story that we wanted to share it, or goodness knows. I think if I were going to play pop psychologist and put myself in John's head, I would just say, gosh darn it, I raised a pretty brilliant young lady who can write a great song, and that's a great song, and I want to cover it. So
Yeah. And
I see the daddy pride.
I do think there's a lot of daddy pride in it. And I remember during COVID, they did
Zoom
it,
concert.
yeah, they did a Zoom concert, and they did an interview too. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember him saying, I worry, I feel for you, young artist. How do
Mm-hmm.
you get your music out there? Right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you build an audience? Um, and to kick it back, you just mentioned about spend all morning out in Franklin. It also could be, I'm picturing that the significant other took care of the clunker car, right? And because now that they're gone, they were fixing my car and I was thinking of you. Like normally you would have done this. You would have taken care of some other things. And I just love the line, busted my knees, but what else could I do? I did what I had to do. It ended up, I didn't break my leg. I'm not permanently damaged. I got banged up pretty bad, but it's what I had to do to be in part of that relationship.
Yeah, actually, as you were talking, I was just scanning the lyrics again. It's funny that nowhere in there does she actually indicate that, yeah, I'll be fine. But
Yeah.
that's very much how I feel as I listen to this
Yeah,
song.
I do too.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I like that a lot too. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Good. Any final thoughts?
Just brilliantly done, well chosen, and chip off the old block.
Yeah,
as
I
they say.
really, if you have, and once again, I think we're preaching to the choir. If you have not checked Lily's work, and you should, she has I think, a beautiful voice and a great storyteller. And I also really enjoy following her on social media. She seems to be a joy. All right, I'm gonna let you go first this time. Rating.
Solid 4. You know,
Yeah.
If I'm rating all of Lily's songs on a scale of 1 to 5, then it's probably a 5. But even John at his 5th album is not John as he is here in 2022. So she's got a ways to go. There's that little smidge room of improvement, but it's just a beautiful song. And I've said it already, but the fact that two very different people with very different styles, admittedly there's some overlap,
Sure.
can interpret the song and have it feel so authentic and equally beautiful, but with very different impact and meaning, is just a testament to both the song as a piece of art and the two musicians as artists. So absolutely 4-star for me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to give it a 4. I think it is. I like to think I would give it a 4 even if I didn't know who wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that he's interpreting one of his daughter's songs, and this the idea that he's made it his own, and I know he has to be incredibly proud of her. And I know she is incredibly proud of him. In fact, she's been on the record that she is angry he's never won a Grammy, right? She just does not understand this.
And she's not the only one, but yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. So yeah, I definitely give this a 4, and I love it. I'm so happy, and I now recommend everyone do what Sylvan said. Put Lily's version on, put John's version on, and you got a great 2-for-1 double shot of love.
Absolutely.
So great.
Yes.
All right. You need to tell us what you think. There are multiple ways to give us feedback. Go ahead and tell them what you've, Sylvan, and you go first this time on contacts.
Well, you can reach us on our Facebook page. You can reach us on Twitter at Perfectly Good PD. I am Sylvan Green Eyes at Twitter, and Jesse.
I am at Jesse Jackson DFW. You can call us at 469-249-2442 to leave us a voicemail. We are working on a shared document, a Google Doc, where you can sign up to be a guest contributor on songs. We will continue to say this. I know there are certain songs that a lot of people are going to want to talk about, and we will figure out a way to get as many voices on as possible. Yes. But hey, don't you have a few, kind of less known songs that you want to embrace? Let us know.
For
Keep
that
it going.
matter, aren't you listening to us? interact with these songs that maybe we have overlooked for a while and saying, wow, that's really fun and interesting what you discover when you just pick something up and really dive into it. So,
Yes.
take a little gander down the alphabet and let us know if you'd like to join us for a song that might not be particularly important to you, but you might discover it is more than you think.
I think that is excellent advice. The other thing is go wherever you get your podcast, be it iTunes, whether it's Podchaser, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Amazon Music, wherever it is, subscribe to us. And please go wherever you are and leave us a 5-star review, hopefully, and a review. The more reviews we get, the more that analytics work that people can find us. And I know a lot of podcasters do this, but it's true. If you could just tell one John Hyatt fan about the show, we are just starting. We've got a long journey ahead of us, and we want company in the backseat of the truck with us as we, head to Memphis and further on. Anything else we got to cover?
I think that does it. Stick with us as we learn. Goodness knows where we're going to be when we are talking about Zero House, but
yeah,
I'm having a good time, and I hope our listeners are too.
I am so thrilled that you said yes when I asked you to jump on this train with me. We will be back next week. We have a twofer, so
Yes.
this is kind of going to be interesting. Tell us what song we're going to talk about.
We are going to talk about All the Lilacs in Ohio, both the version from Tiki Bar is Open and the Jerry Douglas Leftover Feelings version.
So be sure and listen to both. I know that my John Hyatt sister has already started making notes on this because we're talking about, so I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Until then, have a little faith.
Have a little faith.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Baby, we can come